I am what is called a theatrical clown. At least that's what I call it, a theatrical clown. I focus more on theater, plays, more cabaret, some burlesque. In my one-man show, there is burlesque, there is stand-up comedy, there is escapism, there is equilibristics, which is like a kind of juggling. There's a bunch of different stuff that I do, but what I do is aimed more at adults, 16 and up at least, probably 18 and up. I've performed for children many times. It's just not my main bag. I'm a theatrical clown. My stuff is absurd, often sometimes dark, dealing with death on occasion, and there are definitely adult elements that run throughout my work as that kind of clown.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Adeptus On-Air. I am again your host, Mike Hoffman, and today I am joined by freelance producer, director, and performer in the San Francisco Bay Area, Gherkin Picklewater. Gherkin, how are you today?
I am lovely. And yourself?
Good. I appreciate you coming on. I must say, I've been doing this for a few years, probably recorded 100, 150 of these, and you are the first clown I have had.
Oh, that's lovely. Well, congratulations on your first time.
Yeah, this is exciting. I've had people that I thought were clowns, but they weren't really clowns. So, so kind of talk to me, because I find that fascinating. How does one, I don't want to say become a clown, but how does one decide they want to be a clown, and then what's the process to actually become a clown?
Oh, this is such a long and twisty journey for me, and a complicated question and answer. So let's start with the journey. Before my origins, before we get into how one becomes a clown.
Sure.
For me, it started in childhood. I wanted to own a circus. Around 10 years old, maybe 9 or 10, I read Tom Robbins' Another Roadside Attraction. Really a book that wasn't aimed at my age group. And there was roadside attractions, but one of the characters owned a circus, and that kind of sparked an interest in me. I wanted to be a performer soon after that. Other things that sparked interest. And I was very fond of the cartoonish aspect of humanity that came through with clown. Cartoonish people are something that really appealed to me. And then as I moved on, my love for it grew. I started attending these clown conventions when I was definitely a young wannabe clown, which one of my old mentors was called a Yama clown. Yeah, I'm a clown. Yama clowns. So not actually clowns, people who just put on makeup and call themselves clowns. I started attending conventions when I was a Yama, and these were like for birthday party and ministry clowns, not the style of performance I wanted or ended up doing. And that led to me taking some classes from Jeff Raz, who was the founder of the Clown Conservatory in San Francisco at the San Francisco Circus Center. Mm-hmm. And within 2 years, I moved to San Francisco and started attending his school full time. I spent 2 years at the Clown Conservatory and the next 17, 18 years working on my craft.
So you always hear people say as a joke, they talk about, clown college, kind of thing. But really, what is clown college? Obviously, it's a serious program. You were there for a long time. So what does the studying entail?
Well, first, there's a few things that people are talking about when they say clown college that are not what I attended. Clown college was, the actual clown college was Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Clown College, was either a 4 or 8 week program, which was just a boot camp, get you up to speed as quickly as possible on the physical aspect of what you needed to do to perform in their shows. So that was their clown college. It was an intensive. It was, I think, 8 weeks. It is very respected in the style of clowning that it did. That very specific Ringling Brothers clown performance. Then there's other schools that exist like Del Arte and Blue Lake, and I believe it's called the Clown School in San Francisco, run by Christina. I'm blanking on her last name right now. She's wonderful. She has a great thing. But the Clown Conservatory at San Francisco Circus Center was a 1 to 2 year clown intensive where you're going to class 8 hours a day, 3 days a week. And that's a full school year, so a 9-month program. I attended for 2 years. And that consists of physicality, theory, acrobatics, learning classic entrees, which is the French word for clown acts, things like that. And so there's a lot of history in there as well, and reading and essay writing, as well as the actual performance aspects. But the theory behind that school was you can't teach clowning. You can't teach clowning. You can only learn clowning, and you learn clowning by doing clowning. And so that would take the first 5 to 6 years of your career and condense it into 9 months, so to just get you up to speed a lot faster before you got out there and actually started learning the craft by performing it in front of audiences.
Now, every clown, whether it's at a circus or at a fair or whatever, has their own shtick, whether it's,
Yeah.
Their own personality, obviously their own name, their own specialty. Talk to me about you. And if I said to you I'm looking for a clown, describe you, what would you say?
Great. Well, I am what is called the theatrical clown. At least that's what I call it, a theatrical clown. I focus more on theater, plays, more cabaret, some burlesque. I do burlesque in my act. In my one man show, there's burlesque. In my one man show, there's burlesque. There is stand up comedy. There is escapism. There is equilibristics, which is like a kind of juggling. There's a bunch of different stuff that I do, but what I do is aimed more at adults,
Yeah.
16 and up, at least, probably 18 and up. I've performed for children many times. It's just not my main bag. But yeah, I'm a theatrical clown. My stuff is absurd, often sometimes dark, dealing with death on occasion, and there are definitely adult elements that run throughout my work as that kind of clown. But like you said, there are many kinds of clowns, and they go far beyond the balloon twisting and face painting, which is also a very valid kind of clown.
Sure. Well, I think what it is you kind of just said it best. Clowns have different purposes. I mean, at the end of the day, they're all basically like any entertainer, designed to entertain and make people enjoy it in any way they want. When you usually think of a clown, it's to make you laugh, it's to entertain you that way. So when you talk about your act sometimes of elements of death in them, obviously that can be enjoyable, but that's a certain kind of audience that
Mhm.
obviously is looking for that.
Well, my one man show, for instance, I do a lot of stuff. Right now I'm working on a duo show with another clown that we're taking both my one man and duo to the Hollywood Fringe this year as a double feature, two short shows together. But my one man show is about it's about the last ever dinner theater performance, which is taking place during the apocalypse. So the bombs are falling and have fallen, and someone has decided to go ahead and they're still going to put on their show anyway. And there is one person left on stage, one performer left alive in the world as far as he knows, and one audience member. And I mean, there's a full audience of the house,
Of
hopefully.
course.
But there is technically, is for the conceit of the show, there is one audience member that I'm performing to, the last survivor that I have found alive, and I am determined to do my show for them before the last of the bombs fall. And so there's definitely elements of death in there. There's a lot of there's some very bittersweet moments, because one of the underlying themes is the fact that my wife is missing and presumably gone in the events that have happened, and lots of humor around the humor and loss, both around the other members of the show who are no longer there, who I have to perform their acts for them.
So it even sounds like that kind of show, because it has a storyline, it has a message, it has all these different touch feel points, death, sorrow, concern. That could probably even be done not as a clown.
It could, that kind of show could, but because of the way I've built the show, what the show is, it kind of has to be
Okay.
a clown show, because it is built. It is a variety show that I'm doing. It's just one person doing all the different acts of the
Yeah.
variety show, and that just lends itself to comedy and humor.
Yeah. So when you were building your clown persona, because obviously every clown looks differently, like what was the
Mm.
process into building you as the clown? Now, let me ask you this. What is your clown named? Is it your actual name, or is it?
My clown name is Gherkin Picklewater. That's the name I produce and perform under.
Yeah.
My middle name as my clown is my real name, Abraham. Gherkin Abraham Picklewater.
Well, it's funny. I figured when I saw your name, I didn't
Yeah,
want to assume anything that wasn't your God given name, but you never want to assume anything. So,
yeah.
your clown name is Gherkin Picklewater.
It is. It was an homage to the pickle clowns who originated the new American circus movement back in the late 70s, early 80s. They started in San Francisco and toured up and down the West Coast, a no animal, one ring circus. And that starred people like Bill Irwin and Jeff Hoyle and Larry Pizzoni and Gypsy Snyder and a bunch of other people from that era. Bill Irwin is now a famous Broadway actor and clown and dancer, and he was one of my main uh, idolizations as a clown, as to who I wanted to be like. I did not end up like him, but he was the person one of the people I most wanted to emulate as a
Yeah.
clown, and so I took the name Pickle from them, made Picklewater as my last name. And before I started performing as a clown, I was briefly a barroom professional wrestler.
Oh, okay.
And as we're playing on hardwood floors, no rings, I was dumping buckets of slime on people and hitting people with candy glass bottles and things like that. And my character there was a clown, and I did a duo with another friend in that show as vaudevillian actors, as wrestlers, and we were Gherkin and Brown. So I took those two names, Gherkin and Picklewater, and that's where my name came from. My persona is just a hyperbolic version of myself. Is just the version of myself that I put forward as a performer. I do other characters in other contexts, but
Yeah.
my main clown persona is just a hyperbolic version of myself.
Now, when you're doing, like you said, occasionally you'll do a kids function or things like that. Are you still dressed as the same clown? Your just persona is different. I mean, you're who you are is who you are in terms of your physical appearance as a clown.
Yeah, I don't. I'm a light to no makeup. Either no makeup or what's called light auguste, which
Okay.
is kind of a flesh tone with just a little bit of highlights for lips and eyes and so on.
Yeah.
That's the kind of makeup I do, if I do any makeup at all. And yeah, when I do stuff for kids, it's generally the same. I'm probably when I my clown attire, my performance attire is a purple paisley suit with a sparkly purple jacket, and I wear a lot of purple.
Okay.
So it's not going to be that if I'm working with kids, because that is a fancier costume, but it's going to be something akin to it.
Yeah. So all the skills that you possess, so you mentioned before, there's the balloon animals and there's the silly, the water squirting and that kind of stuff. So is that something obviously, since you're built your career towards the adult audience, is that just something you preferred, or is that kind of just how your career just kind of evolved?
Well, two parts to that. We'll start with the second part. That is, I didn't know where I wanted to be when I started. I didn't know which kind of clown I wanted to be, if I wanted to be a clown for adults or a clown for kids, because those really are the two options.
Okay.
You can be both, and I try my best to be accessible. But I tried being a clown for kids, and it's fun, but it's not as rewarding to me.
Sure.
A great deal of my theory of comedy, of how I view humor, is, we're going to get into the weeds a little bit here, if that's okay.
Yeah, feel free.
Um, when you perform comedy, you are making a kind of a social martyr of yourself. You're saying, laugh at me,
Hmm.
cast me out, put me on the outside while you're looking in at me. And by doing so, by being the person who's inviting people to laugh at them, you're inviting those people to come together as a kind of tribe or a pack, to ostracize, in a way, the person that they're laughing at. By coming together in this moment of unity, they have a sense of strength and belonging, that is incredibly healthful. And there have been many medical studies that show that mirthful laughter decreases blood pressure, increases positive hormones in your system, and that is science. My part, is not so much science; it's
Yeah.
my theory. But by bringing people together, you're making them stronger, you're making them healthier, you're giving them a sense of belonging. And in doing that, in gathering that trust, by being the person who's ostracized, you can then lead them towards different aspects of reinforcement or breaking of taboo. So much of the sacred clowning of people like the Hopi Indians and
Hmm.
many cultures around the globe who had clown characters, those clowns were there to reinforce the taboo of that culture. There's these actions that we're doing are not okay, or you are behaving inappropriately in our society, and so we're going to call you out. Um, you can do that still as a clown by, or a comedian, a stand-up, any kind of comedian, by bringing people into a state of trust and then poking fun at the things that you think should not exist within your society. And so that's my theory of clown. That's what I'm trying to accomplish. Harder to accomplish that with 6-year-olds than it is with 60s.
Yeah, I would think so. One of the things that impresses me most about clowns, and I'm sure it's probably part of your act, is the physicality and the comedic physical nature of a clown's body, and
Yeah.
the way they're able to concoct or react and things like that. How is that process for you? Because I obviously, to me, when I look at a clown whose body can just almost become limp at times and things like that, it's an impressive level of physicality that almost seems simple, but I know I wouldn't be able to do it.
There's so much to it, and so much of it is just getting settled into who you are and having an awareness of your physicality and surrounding, knowing your body, and knowing your body on a secondhand level. So my partner in the show that I'm working on right now, Nick Dixon, is an incredible physical comedian when it comes to pratfalls,
Mm-hmm.
the falling down, the
Yeah,
tripping, all that stuff. He's really good at that. My physicality is more about physical precision with my body, and using my body a little bit more like a cartoon character, and my reaction, my facial
yeah,
reaction to things. That's where my physicality comes from. So there's very different types, but it is inherent to all clowns, this idea that we are physical comedians. And the dogma of the Clown Conservatory, where I came from, is that you learn the physical first and character comes out of that.
right, right. So the facial expression thing you mentioned is interesting because it's probably even more important for you based upon your comment before that you don't use a lot of makeup. So
Yeah.
obviously makeup can kind of, not I don't say hide facial expressions, but it can definitely limit them. Just eyes opening or things like that. So you're really exposing your face a lot more than what I'll call a traditional clown.
Well, I will say, and this is a thing that most people aren't aware of. It's kind of the opposite of that in a way. Clown makeup, what we think of now as clown makeup, uh, originated in the early 1900s
Mm-hmm.
as a way to express your face more clearly to the people in the back row of a giant three-ring circus. Before that, clowns were Jon Stewart. They were Jon Stewart. They were Trevor Noah. They were John Oliver. They were just commentators, usually political commentators on society as a whole. They would be very vocal. They would give long monologues, and they would still have their physicality within there. When Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey circuses combined into one giant show with three rings, clowns can no longer be heard, and
Right.
so they became silent and just physical, and they had to increase their makeup broader and broader and broader to be seen expressing in those
Yeah.
back rows. And so if you're doing something intimate and small and close, you can't have makeup like that. You need to have something that's intimate and small and close. Which is why I wear none, and so many of the clowns I know do a very light auguste, just to slightly emphasize their eyes, to emphasize their smiles, and so on.
Is it harder for a clown, in your opinion, to tell a story and entertain without the ability to speak to the audience, or do you think it's
Oh yeah.
harder when you have to talk? Like you're obviously speaking to them in a
Yeah.
show, but back to your example, Ringling Brothers, you're right. If I'm sitting, 40 rows up, I'm trying to enjoy a cloud, but I'm enjoying a clown from 100 100 feet away, and obviously I can't hear them even if they were talking.
Well, I mean, pantomime is a big part of our skill set. Again, Nick, my partner, excellent at what's called, uh, I think, 0 point. He's a really good mime, is what I'm trying to say.
Hmm.
Pantomime is a big part of our work, but yeah, telling a story, emoting, expressing without words is its own entire skill set, and it is a very difficult skill set for people to absorb into their person and use professionally. It is not a skill set that I am a master of. I am much more a verbal clown, even though I use a lot of physicality in my work. It is a very difficult transition to make from one to the other.
Did you ever have? I know you said adults were seemed to be more what captured your interest, but at any point in your clown career, did the thought of being in like a major circus like a Ringling Brothers ever appeal to you?
Yeah, I mean, I auditioned for Ringling. Ringling closed for a while, for about 5 or 6 years, a few years ago, and just reopened a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I auditioned to them about 10, 12 years ago, and they gave me the nod and said, yeah, if you're interested, we'd like you to come and do some training and join us. And that didn't work out with my career at the time. I also I had multiple callbacks for Cirque du Soleil. I blew that one. But I was really close to a Cirque role, and I did not make the proper decisions to make
Okay.
that happen. But yeah, big giant circus show at that point in my life when I was 10, 15 years younger was definitely something that appealed to me. But now, as a married man living in the suburbs,
Yeah.
it's a little more difficult to imagine that life.
Yeah, as life has run its course for you to where you are now. So yeah. So in addition to the clowning, I know you do a lot in the podcast world. I know you
Mm-hmm.
do some production. Kind of talk about that other aspect of your career.
Sure. Yeah, I do. I think 4 or 5 podcasts right now. It's hard to keep track of everything that's going on. I have a relationship podcast with my wife called Why Are You Laughing at Me? It's just us discussing our relationship, aspects of it that come up that need, it's our version of couples therapy without having to pay for the therapist.
That's great.
And we talk about pop culture as well, but mainly just what's going on in our relationship. We have a kitchen sink podcast with some friends of hers, where we just general roundtable discussion that happens infrequently, called Velvet Ramble. The main podcasts I'm doing right now are the Activation Point, my daytime job that I do aside from performing and producing is production of events, event production and event management. And so this talks to people who are in those spaces, doing event production, public space activation, and public art about their work and their careers. It's a very inside baseball event production and public art podcast, and that's called The Activation Point. And then I have Why Are You Laughing at Me, which is a video podcast, much like this one, where I'm interviewing professionally funny people about what they think is funny and why. And that one's on YouTube. And then we also have Ridiculous Life of a Clown, which is on hiatus, and that's our most popular podcast. And that's talking to professional clowns about their career and inspirations.
I think you said something really interesting. We kind of touched on it before. Everyone's interpretation of what's funny. And it was kind of my point before about, what's entertaining. Where to me, seeing a clown talk about death might be great, but to the next person, like, no, I want to see a clown, like you said, make a balloon. So I'm sure you've had a lot of people, discuss what is funny to you. Give me a 30-second to a minute synopsis on, you talked to a lot of people. What's the general consensus on what's funny?
Oh, gracious. I mean, okay, there are general consensus for there isn't one. People don't have a consensus on what's funny, but there are some things that are always funny to a degree. So the rule of threes, not funny, not normal, normal, abnormal. That's funny to people. Where you're making a list in rules of threes, I have A, I have B, I have banana, and so it doesn't fit the pattern. That
Yes.
surprise, that's funny to people. Surprise is funny to people. There are funny sounds like K's and P's for some reason that people find that funny. So there are things that people find funny. A lot of people find absurdity funny, which is the world that I work in, is the
Yes.
absurd and the surreal. Those are the aspects that I deal with most commonly.
Do you hear a lot about people finding other people's misfortunes funny? And
Oh,
I don't mean like
Schadenfreude.
misfortune. I don't mean misfortune like death. I
Yeah.
mean misfortune. You see the TikTok videos of people like wiping out on ice. And listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. Some of those things pop up, and I'm crying. I'm laughing so hard, and you feel bad. It probably really hurt those people, but it's just funny.
Mhm. Schadenfreude is a huge part of comedy. That's the German term for that specific thing, is finding humor in the misfortune of others. But it all depends. So much of Schadenfreude and that type of humor is on the consequences and the context and consequences. If you feel like the person didn't actually get hurt, it's a lot easier to laugh.
Yes.
And the context of who it happened to and why it happened, that has a lot to do with it as well. But yeah, Schadenfreude is huge. Again, you're as a comedian, you're making yourself that thing that's getting ostracized, the thing that's getting laughed at, and that is a big part of what is drawing that laughter. Is that I am the fool, I am the idiot. It is not my job to be clever. Is my job to be stupid and show you something about society in doing so? Is my job to fall down? There is the
Right.
one who hits and the ones who gets hit,
And
and
that's
it's
what
my job
you're
to be the one that
seeing.
gets hit.
You're seeing that a lot now on the comedic front too, because a lot of comedians now, they're not doing as much of I'm going up there with a 1 hour routine. I'm going out there and I'm doing, crowd work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm either gonna make fun of myself or I'm gonna make fun of someone else because people I think nowadays generally like to be made fun of in good fun, not in a malicious way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think other people enjoy watching someone get picked on and made fun of.
As long as you're not punching down,
Correct.
most people enjoy comedy that doesn't punch down, and most comedians do comedy that doesn't punch down. And there's some great crowd work comedians out there, like um, oh, I can't remember his name. It's not Scorsese. Anyway, there's some wonderful crowd work. There's a great show on Dropout. Do you know Dropout?
No.
Dropout is a streaming service that's owned by Sam Reich.
Okay.
They just do comedy and improv, a lot of game shows, and they have a quote unquote game show that is just comedians doing crowd work. Comedians come up and there's a crowd full of people with shirts on that say "Ask me about this or that," some aspect of their life that might be entertaining for a comedian
Yeah.
to delve into, and they talk to them about it. It's on Dropout. It's called Crowd Control. It's an excellent show if you're interested in stand-up comedy and crowd work at all. But yeah, mutually coming to a sense of belonging with the person that you're teasing, and that's where that really works. Is where you're not punching down. You're
Right.
finding some commonality that we can
Mhm.
all share about this weird thing that's going on.
Yeah. At the end of the day, whether it's comedians, whether it's you doing a more serious show focused on some more adult context, or whether you're a kid clown, at the end of the day, what's it about? It's about entertaining people. So they're leaving whatever you're doing feeling like, wow, I just enjoyed myself for the last 30 minutes, an hour, hour and a half, whatever it may be, and that was worth my time.
Yeah, taking some of the pain away. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a big part of what we do. Make it so people can continue the fight.
Yeah.
That's how we contribute to making it possible for people to continue doing what they're doing. Is we relieve some of that strain, and hopefully we help guide in some way with our
Yeah.
comedy. Even the silliest, most absurd stuff um, is going to be guiding in some way of society. It reinforces your feelings, or maybe opens you up to new feelings, but it's hopefully pointing you in the direction of the healthy and the good.
Yeah. So last thing I want to ask you about that is, so we talked about you didn't do Ringling Brothers. You thought about it at some point. Now you're doing a show you're really happy with. Is there one thing you haven't done in the clown world? Is there something like, wow, you know what? It's on my quote unquote clown bucket list, for lack of a better. Is it
Yeah.
performing in a certain arena or venue? Is it performing in a different country? Is it doing this kind of show? Is there one thing you're like, wow, in a perfect clown world, I would like to do this?
I'm going to give you a general morass of things, because the one thing escapes me, and that's really interesting. That is a question that I ask most of the guests on my podcast as well. What is the project that you've always wanted to
Yeah.
pursue, but for logistic or financial reasons couldn't? I want to be seen. It's my opinion. Entertainment in general, comedy especially, but entertainment in general, is about luck if you're going to succeed. But to succeed, when you get lucky, when you get that break, when you get the right person to see you, you have to be prepared. You have to have the skills.
Yeah.
You have to be ready to take advantage of that opportunity when it shows itself. And so my goal right now is to build as much support for the things that I do well, so that when that opportunity comes, and so that's what I want. I want to be seen
Mm-hmm.
by as many people as possible. So that is the big circus show where I'm doing my acts. That is taking this show that I have to someplace like Vegas and doing a residency. That
Yeah.
is, being the wacky neighbor on a sitcom. Whatever it is, it's getting enough people to build that long tail audience where I can find my audience who really appreciates what I do. Because this is a place where myself and many comedians and clowns differ, and many agree with me. I am not interested in my audience's opinion. I want an audience who wants what I have to say.
Sure. That's
So
fair.
that sounds a bit harsh when I say not interested in their opinion. I'm not there to do things that I think will make the audience laugh. I'm there to do things that I find funny, and I want to find an audience who appreciates that as well. And that is my goal.
Interesting. So how can people find you across social media?
Well, we have our website. To a degree, we have our website, picklewater.com, but we are Picklewater Industries, usually Picklewater_Industries, throughout social media, wherever we are.
Awesome. Well, listen, this is really interesting. Like I said, thank you for being my first clown. And I find it fascinating. And I wish you nothing but continued success going forward.
To you as well. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Adeptus On-Air. If you like this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. The views and opinions by the podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Adeptus. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice.